Folks, welcome to today's Word on the Street. I'm really excited today with none other. She's a leader of leaders. She's a mentor, author, speaker, minister. Gosh, what can I say? Fiona Pyszka of Fiona Inc. How you doing, Fiona?
I'm doing great. How are you, Brant?
I'm doing great, Fiona. You know, you and I talked the other day about leadership in general and also women in leadership. And of course, you know me, Fiona. I'm all about seeing great leaders flourish and women leaders. I love that too. And you see a lot of that on
Yes.
GLC. Can't wait to
Yes.
hear and see your new shows on the network as well. But catch us up first with what you're doing and where you are in the world.
Right. So since the last time we spoke, which I think was just maybe a couple of months ago, maybe,
Right.
I completed my studies in my doctorate for business
Wow.
administration.
Wow.
So technically, I'm now Dr. Fiona Pyszka, which is
Doctor.
something new for me to get used to.
I love it. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It was quite, the last time I was on your show, actually, I was in the middle of my dissertation process,
Wow.
which was quite the fiasco, but it got completed and by miraculous ways. So
Wow.
God's instruction to me was to get this done. And so I obeyed and it got done. So I'm thankful for that.
Wonderful. You know, to this day, still, I remember the first time I heard about you, and it was through Dr. Ron Charles, a fellow doctor now, and Paula as well. And so, man, she's amazing lady, strong, fearless author, all those things. And she mentors men and women. And that's an incredible thing. And, you know, now you've earned your doctorate. Congratulations. You know, you already have the street cred. You already have the experience and leadership. You know, you not only co-pastor a church with your husband there and Paul Myra, but you also head up an orphanage in Guyana. Is that true?
Yes. So we have an organization called Bless the Children Home in the U.S., established as a nonprofit, a 501c3. And then our actual physical orphanage is in Guyana, South America, where I'm originally from, started by my parents. And it's still going today. We have kids there, and we have even brought 2 of the kids over to the U.S. to study, which I'm very excited about. And so God is using our family line in many ways, and we are happy to accommodate, because that's why we're here on the earth, to do God's will and his, whatever it is that he wants us to do, we're willing to do it.
That's right. Well, you know what? You've always been willing to do whatever the Lord has told you to do. And I mean, gosh, you know, you graduated Rhema Bible College in Tulsa.
My husband did. I married into it.
Okay, I got you. And of course, now your son Gabe is a very sharp young man. He is now going to Rhema as well. And I think Rhema claims you, though.
Yes, I am ordained with Rhema. And I'm happy to be part of that organization. Absolutely. If I had the opportunity to go to Rhema, I would have. But at the time, I never really knew about it until after I met my husband and realized, wow, I agree with this. This is what, you know, the teachings are great. And of course, the lessons about God and faith and all those things combined together, as believers, it makes us stronger. So
wonderful. Well, you know what, Fiona, you do have an amazing story. Of course, folks, if you go to the bottom of your screen, you'll see FionaInc.com, and you can see the books and teachings and mentoring opportunities, life coaching. You know, it's being called so many different things, Fiona, but you use kingdom principles to help people in their ministries and their careers. You're doing coaching.
Yes. I certainly am, you know. Yeah, I have a story, you know, one of the recent stories I keep track of, a mom of 4. She is now, her oldest child, I believe, just turned 22 or 21. And she went back to school to be a pilot. It's been a dream of hers since she was 8 years old. And she's been coaching with me for a while. And a while ago, I mean, she coached with me. But now today, she is now pursuing that career or that opportunity to be a pilot, which is amazing. Wow. And I tell people, like, do you realize today she was up in the air flying? And here she is in front of us. Not too many people could do that. And so there's just different things that have happened over the years from coaching. And I've worked a lot with women, Brent, and men. But most of the time, I find the women are kind of like behind in their thinking of who they were created to be and what they're capable of doing.
Okay.
And so that's one of my passion is we're never behind. Right. We don't have to play catch up. God made us all, with brains and gifts and talents and abilities. It's the atmosphere around us and the cultures that we live in that ends up putting a dynamic on us that really we weren't created to have. And so that's one of my passion. The new program you talk about, the new programs that I have coming up on leadership. And that's kind of what, is my passion at the moment, is just to explore this leadership concept among women, especially.
Well, that's exciting, Fiona. A lot of people don't realize that the very first person that was given the commission by Jesus to tell the disciples he was alive and risen was a woman. And
yes.
Of course, there's Deborah the prophet. There's yes. Esther, who saved her people.
Yes.
And utilized her platform in
yes.
leadership.
Yes.
And of course, the list goes on. Even Fotine, who was the woman at the well. Her church has been in existence all these years.
Right.
In Syria. I mean, the list goes on and on and on.
Yes.
Mary Magdalene, there's a lot of misconceptions about her. She was a wealthy businesswoman. Some say she was a hairdresser among things. That helped.
Rahab, we have Rahab.
Right.
Look at what she did.
The list goes on and on. And I just can't help but wonder. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be offensive, but of course I'm not exactly shy about my opinion, Fiona, but if you're not secure in yourself, then you're going to be insecure towards others. And I just find it interesting that after all this time, there are people who still are behind the curve when it comes to women that God has placed in
right. Right. And so, something happened to me recently that kind of fired me up on this. And I have been a strong leader. I don't even want to say a strong woman, because we don't go around saying, oh, that's a strong man right there.
Right.
Women are women. And so you have some people who are strong in certain traits while others are not.
Right.
And so I've always taken the leadership role in any scenario, whether it's social or private. Even in our family growing up, my parents, it seems as though would not go forward with a big decision unless they talk to Fiona first. Let's see what Fiona says. And that was always the thing. If Fiona says no, we're not doing it. So, and so it was part of my training, though. It was part of my training. God put me in the right family, and my parents saw the gift in me, and they utilized it quite often. And now my siblings do, which I'm thankful for. But see, we have to start respecting the gift in the people around us. Mm-hmm. And we have to start understanding that they could have been born in another home. They could have been somewhere else. And if you had met them for the first time and saw only that gift, how would you respond to it? And so what happened to me recently is I'm trying to solve a problem of someone. I'm trying to go the graceful ways so that I can protect this person that has been attacking me, right? And so I went through their family, and which also, I went through some known sources. And as I'm talking to the male person of the family, I am in charge of the thing I'm talking about. I am the last person. Like, after me, there's nobody else to ask a question about it. I'm the final answer. And I'm giving all the information. I'm giving all of the details and the resources, everything you need, all the evidence. And this man's final question to me is, may I speak to so-and-so, who is my male employee? And I said, what is it that you need to find out that I have not told you? Well, I just want to ask some questions. No. You talk to me. I am the final on this, and I'm giving you information for you to make a decision. But that's when something clicked in me. And this has happened before, and it's no big deal. I mean, that's what happens, right? But when this happened to me, something just clicked. And the Lord said to me, do you know how many women have to put up with this around the world?
Right.
And I thought to myself, wow. And the whole idea is that women have to be verified every single time they try to make a leadership decision and be the final answer. It's always like somebody else needs to verify what they're saying to say, okay, yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, we'll do it that way. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's what fired it up. And usually when something like that clicks in me and gets fired up, I know it's time to speak on the subject and to address it, because God's about to do something and he needs voices to speak out what it is that he wants to do. And so that's how this whole new series that I'm recording and planning here is on leadership. And that's specifically, my dissertation was on servant leadership. And so that I did a lot of research on that and found out a lot of things that, even the world system uses servant leadership. And there's another level besides servant leadership, but we've only stayed there. But that's another thing I'm exploring. But my point is that any person that's a leader, if you're identifying them as a leader of something, you need to give them the respect of the final answer.
Right, right.
And not have to verify everything they say. As far as like, well, somebody else has got to tell me something that you didn't tell me, that kind of a situation.
Well, I think it's safe to say that women are under attack. I mean, the very people who claim to fight for women's rights,
yes,
are the first ones who want to strip them of their titles and opportunities. They don't even want to call them women. They call them birthing people, and then you get a guy who puts on a wig, and we're also all supposed to pretend he's a woman. And I mean, you even have Caitlyn Jenner, her first year as a woman, winning Woman of the Year. It's a very concentrated, sinister, dark effort to under the mask of women's rights or the mask of women empowerment to do the very thing, to strip them of their titles, to strip them of their uniqueness. I mean, you realize what a miraculous thing it is for a woman to be able to develop another human being in her body and to give birth. And yet, again, those who scream the loudest about women empowerment seem to be those who are in the most favor of stripping her of her title. My daughter and I were talking the other day, and I have a daughter and I love her very much. And I've maintained for a long time that the reason that Lucifer hates women is because they were the last and most beautiful creation on the earth. He hates them merely for that, not to count the fact that it is through women that the light of the world was born, the Messiah was born. And so I'm very excited about your leadership series for women. Now, Fiona, you've been ministering in the part of the country where that may even, the concept of women leadership may even be more challenged than here in the Midwest in America. Right. What would you say about that?
Well, let's just say I have a lot of experience in that regard. And so when, my husband and I started pastoring, I personally had no thoughts about Pastor Fiona or any of those titles. Honestly, I was into business, and I had a master's in business. So to me, I'm business. And there was such an eruption about the fact that my husband added an S to the end of the word pastor when we signed off on a letter that we wrote, just an invitation letter. That just like erupted. And that's when we realized what we were dealing with. And in the community and in the people that were there, and all, it was just crazy. And I could not believe it, because it came from the youngest couples. The youngest couples had the most issue with it. And I said to my husband, frankly, I really don't care to be Pastor Fiona. But he said, no, this is what God showed me. God showed me pastors, Doug and Fiona. I said, okay, then if God showed that to you, then I'm in. Otherwise, I really don't need to have any of this. And see, before all of that, in the world system, I was a leader already. I had been the boss in many companies. I had already led many things.
Right.
And then you come into the church and then you are pretty much put. So here was what I was allowed to do. I was allowed to teach Sunday school. I was allowed to sing on the worship team. I was allowed to serve something. I was allowed to serve. But the big problem was I was not allowed to speak at the pulpit when men were in the audience.
Wow.
And you know what I was speaking? You know the speaking I was doing? I hadn't even preached yet. The speaking I was doing was I was standing next to my husband and we were doing announcements. And that was a major issue. And I thought, wow, I have never in my life. I grew up in the church. My dad was a pastor. And I grew up, and everywhere we went, we'd come up and greet the people and everybody, I grew up that way. I just never imagined in America, of all places, that I would have encountered what I encountered. But that was 20 years ago. And today, there's still residue of it, but it's not in our church. Our church is completely free of any of that nonsense. And people come to us, women talk to me about being free from that kind of a grip. But here's the bottom line. We are each human being, every person, my children, your children, every person, male, female, we are responsible to God for what we have done with our life on this earth. And that's the bottom line. And so if we can learn how to listen to the voice of God, then everybody else comes next. And if God tells us something and he says, I want you to do this, then you know for sure you are doing the right thing. Now, there's another thing I'd like to address, Brand. Let me just keep talking, right?
Sure.
I want to point out that Mary, who was the mother of Jesus, there's a very important dynamic going on here. The angel came directly to Mary to ask her a question. And she gave him an answer without consulting anybody else in her life, including the man that she was engaged to, whose life this would impact greatly.
Wow.
And she is an example of a woman that knows her priorities and it belongs to God.
Wow.
And see, if we just look at that one story in the Bible, how Jesus came to the earth, and look at how God did the order of things. See, God's pretty much into order. So a lot of this woman stuff is based on order. We must have order, and this is the order. Well, this is God's order. He went to a young lady, a teenage girl, and asked to use her body for his seed to birth his child without anybody else's input. And she made a decision right there of what she wanted to do. And God accepted her answer without verifying anybody else's input. Do you see how profound that is? But this is how God works with people. The same thing happened to another teenager. It was David and Goliath. He was a teenager when he had came on the scene. Behind the scenes, he had already been practiced in defeating enemies, but here he comes into the public scene, and his thing was, who is this uncircumcised Philistine defying God?
Right.
How could you just stand there and let him defy God? So again, these people had their perspective and their priorities right. They were focused on what God wanted, not what everybody, you think about David, his oldest brother was mocking him.
Right.
And questioning his motives, right? And here he was the army guy. 3 of David's brothers were in the army.
Right.
And they were the ones shaking. Here comes David, the teenager, questioning. But one of the things I point out in my teaching is that David turned away from the person who was mocking him when he was asking, what does the person get that, defeats his giant? And his brother was mocking him and saying, I know your motive. I know why you're asking. He turned away from him and he went to ask somebody else. And sometimes in our lives, we have to turn away from the people who have conditioned us to stay at a certain level. Good. And we have to be able to turn to the people that are capable of giving us the correct answer so we can make the right decisions. And I think women have been kept down too long, not just in position, but in their thinking about what they can do and how they can make decisions. That's one of the biggest things I find when I work with women and coaching, is that their indecisiveness. And so you would sit there and talk to them, but they always have to ask somebody else to see if that's a good idea. And so for them to be able to write there, they're watching everything they've written out, everything they say they want to be, everything they want to do, yet they still have to go ask somebody else. It's like asking for permission to be this thing. And if the enemy has done anything to win his fight against women, is to plant a seed in society that a woman can't make a decision for herself without somebody else saying to her, yeah, go ahead, you can do that. And God's saying, isn't my word enough? You know, am I not enough? When I tell you, I want you to do something, don't you think that's enough for you to be able to do it? And that's where we are today, Brent. That's where we are today. In the world system, men are trying to be women. I wonder why. You know? And in the church, they're still trying to figure out if the woman can stand up and give an announcement. I mean, this is ridiculous, isn't it? But it's all part of the work of the enemy. It's all part of the work of the enemy. None of it has the hand of God in it. None of it. You know, the other thing I want to point out is women were created to have careers, to do exploits. The only place a woman was asked to submit is the same place a man was asked to submit, and that's in marriage. We're asked to submit to each other. But the way society has created it is that every woman should submit to every man. And that's where the thinking goes off. And women get conditioned that if they go ahead and make a decision without submitting that idea to a man, and if it goes wrong, then they're going to be blamed, you know, or something terrible is going to happen. Well, here's the deal. We're all growing. We're all growing in our positions. We all make mistakes and we all have to correct it and move on. You know, men do the same thing. Men make lots of mistakes. They correct it and they move on. And somehow women feel that if they make a mistake as a leader, it proves that they don't qualify to be a leader, right? But that's not true at all. I mean, we see how many mistakes David has made in his life. And look how God labeled him. God labeled him.
And a lot of them involved women, but it wasn't the woman's fault.
Yeah.
You know,
and God labeled him correctly.
I find it interesting that, you know, we love to emulate the Spartans, the ancient Spartans, you know, in masculinity, which if you really investigate the Spartans, there were some issues there too, you know, but we like to emulate the Spartans, but we forget that in ancient Sparta, women had the right to vote. Women had the right to own land, to buy and sell property. They had the same rights that the men had. And it took strong women, you know, one of the many sayings, you know, that only Spartan women birth real men. That was a real saying back at that time, you know. Yeah. And all that to say is that it's interesting, all the things that we make exceptions for. You know, it's okay for a woman to hold a communion plate, but God forbid that she makes a proclamation of any kind, unless it's a testimony, of course, you know. And I'm telling you what, we're not just seeing this, of course, in the faith circles. We're seeing this in the world too. So many contradictions. But I am excited, though, at any prospect when you lift people up and you ignite the greatness in people and you help women who God has called to lead and to do things that only they can do. Hey, look, there's things that only women can do. Guys, if you're watching the show today, man, hey, let's be honest, okay? Women can think with both sides of their brain. There's not really much to us guys. I mean, we eat, sleep, fight, work, procreate. You know, sometimes in different orders or preferences, but God really did do an incredible thing. You know, Fiona, when it comes to, I have an incredible wife, and as you know,
yes, you do. I know her.
And you know, the kind of leadership that I have in my home is not the kind of I'm the man and you grovel it. No, it's like, honey, you know what? In this marriage scenario, you're a diamond in my hand, and I'm accountable for you. So it's not like you're this thing that's under my thumb. You're my partner. I needed her. I couldn't do what I do, and she couldn't do what she does. Had we not had the kind of partnership that we enjoy, but folks, especially brothers, tell me what woman would have a problem falling with a man working with, but also
right.
having him when she's a diamond in your hand that you're accountable for. And that as men, you know, we want to provide like a king, which is much more than money. It's provision, seeing what's on the horizon, protect like a warrior, lead like a leader, and love like a lover. And so, you know, the time has come that both men and women take their rightful place in leading by example and leading the way. I'm excited about this. And, you know, Fiona, do you have a name for your shows yet? Or, I mean, no matter what you
Fiona
call
Inc. Discover the Best You is what it's been. It's been the program that we've had. Fiona Inc. is the name of my company, and my tagline is Discover the Best You.
Right.
So this series, though, will be the leadership series that people will be able to watch.
I love it.
And just go get on there. Of course, my YouTube channel will run all of them. And you can grab it that way. I'll be on social media, of course. And so this is some of the ways that you get it. But we really need to get ourselves together and be who we're supposed to be.
Right.
And God will do the rest. You know, God will do the rest.
Well, you know, there's a saying, a leader touches the heart before they ask for a hand. And you have encouraged a lot of people around the world for many years. You ignite greatness in people, and your message on fearlessness is incredible. You walk that way, you live that way. You know, you and your hubby have raised great children. You know, they're not kids anymore; they're growing up. But,
they are.
But they're a reflection of leadership and strength. And I'm just so grateful, Fiona, that there's people like you. There's women warriors like you. You know, I'm a fan of the new Wonder Woman. And she's an Israeli, by the way, but
nice.
Yeah, but people, they love her, but they were angry at her because she was a warrior. She is a warrior and a leader, but she also loves being a woman. She loves doing the womanly things, and she loves children. And you can have the best of all worlds, can't you? Can't you have the best of all worlds?
Exactly. Yes, you can. And that's the